On April 7, 2023, a strange and dramatic incident unfolded on a well-known bridge in St. Augustine, Florida. A flurry of emergency 911 calls reported a heavily intoxicated woman causing a scene, dragging her young son into an absurdly comical situation. When police arrived at the scene, they were not only met with a mother completely out of control, but also with a series of bizarre events that defied imagination. What followed quickly became an unforgettable story for both law enforcement and the local community. It all began on a late afternoon when multiple 911 calls came in reporting a drunk woman creating chaos on St. Augustine's iconic bridge. Witnesses were shocked to see a mother utterly incapable of controlling herself, heightening the tension and concern in the area. Upon arriving, the officers immediately realized this wasn't a routine call. Before them stood a woman so heavily intoxicated that she could barely stay upright. She shouted accusations, claiming she was being recorded without reason, her hoarse and confrontational voice drawing everyone's attention. Adding to the surreal nature of the scene was her young son, standing beside her with a bewildered and frightened expression. He looked like a character plucked straight out of a satirical film titled Drunk Mom Chronicles. The boy, likely too young to grasp the full gravity of the situation, was undoubtedly aware of the chaos erupting around him. Together, they became the unwilling stars of a spectacle that captured the attention of both the officers and the curious crowd gathered on the bridge. The incident unfolded like an unscripted play, with Karen, self-appointed lead actress, dismissing the dangerous backdrop of a busy bridge. Meanwhile, the officers reluctantly stepped into their roles as supporting characters, tasked with calming the situation. Karen's every word and action heightened the tension, yet carried an almost absurdly comedic undertone. Instead of cooperating, she repeatedly accused the police of infringing on her freedoms, setting the stage for an escalating series of dramatic events. Officer Kenny, a paragon of patience and professionalism, approached with the hope of de-escalating the situation. Using a calm, diplomatic tone, he attempted to engage Karen in a reasonable discussion. However, Karen, embodying the spirit of a defiant skeptic, responded with sarcasm and baseless suspicion. "Show me your complaints," she demanded imperiously, as if expecting the officer to pull out a filing cabinet filled with grievances against her. Throughout her tirade, Karen adamantly denied using any profanity, a claim completely contradicted by the colorful language she continuously hurled during the confrontation. Her tirade was peppered with curses and insults, turning her denials into a source of dark humor. Despite the officer's patient requests for her cooperation, she stubbornly refused to move, citing the sturdy structure of the bridge as her justification for staying put. This argument was as shaky as her stance, teetering on the edge of collapse much like her actions. Karen's resistance became a masterclass in obstinance. While Officer Kenny focused on public safety and managing traffic, Karen's unyielding defiance mirrored the bridge's concrete foundation. However, unlike the bridge built to endure, Karen failed to realize that her impulsive decisions were exhausting her and paving the way for unavoidable consequences. When polite persuasion failed, Karen escalated her rebellion into a full-blown theatrical act. Refusing cooperation, she launched into malicious verbal attacks, firing accusations of corruption like cannonballs, fast and furious, leaving those around her stunned. Each attempt by the officers to handcuff her was met with louder, more frantic outbursts as though she believed sheer volume could overpower law enforcement. She roared in anger, "You have no right to arrest me," a bold yet legally unfounded declaration. In her drunken haze, Karen seemed to forget that public intoxication and verbal abuse not only violate social norms but also constitute criminal offenses that could lead to prosecution. Ultimately, the situation became a clash between professionalism and irrational defiance, culminating in a chaotic scene destined to be remembered by all who witnessed it. Despite this, the officers, with admirable patience and composure, remained unfazed by the woman's obstinate attitude. They continued performing their duties professionally, undeterred by her dramatic declarations of intending to bring down the legal system. While the scene had its comedic elements, It highlighted a sobering truth about individuals unaware of their rights and responsibilities, resorting instead to irrational actions fueled by delusions of immunity. The officer's perseverance in this chaotic situation served not only as a lesson in maintaining calm under pressure, but also as a testament to upholding the law in the face of defiance and provocation. Amid the commotion, the loud arguments, and the clamor of chaos, one couldn't ignore the forlorn, fearful gaze of the young boy. Standing there, alone amidst the crowd, his head hung low as if trying to escape attention, yet unable to avoid the overwhelming sense of helplessness. His eyes, brimming with dread and sorrow, seemed to plead silently, a wordless cry for help. Is there anyone who can take me away from this? Anyone at all, as long as it's not my mom. In his tender mind, there must have been a profound yet simple longing, a peaceful life free from the madness and turmoil caused by the very person he loved most. The stark contrast between the mother's outrageous, frenzied actions and the boy's silent resignation, appearing almost devoid of hope, intensified the tragic irony of the situation. The mother, in her intoxicated and hysterical state, likely had no awareness of her child's feelings. Yet the boy, despite not fully understanding the events, keenly felt the fear and despair in the air. Each of her unrestrained acts, her shouting, violent gestures, and threats, didn't just create chaos but painted a tragic picture where the child was an unwilling spectator in this painful narrative. With every uncontrollable outburst from the mother, the bridge seemed transformed into a stage for an unwanted circus, where the police played the role of lion tamers, struggling futilely to bring order. Their efforts to maintain safety and restore calm felt like a losing battle against Karen's relentless resistance. The scene not only confused onlookers but also underscored society's helplessness in preventing such volatile family situations. Ultimately, the greatest victims weren't the mother or the officers but the children, innocent souls unable to escape the damaging impact of uncontrolled behavior by those they depended on most. If there were an Olympic gold medal for resisting arrest, Karen would undoubtedly be a 3-time champion. In a performance that would leave even Harry Houdini in awe, she not only managed to escape her handcuffs but also crawled over the partition to reach the front seat of the police car, creating a spectacle of rare disorder. The climax of her antics was an unexpected performance where she deliberately urinated on an unlucky officer. Karen turned the holding area into the stage for a chaotic version of Cirque du Soleil, with movements so flexible and inventive one couldn't help but wonder if she had secretly trained for this role. Her defiant behavior not only complicated the officer's efforts but also exposed an unprecedented level of lack of control, highlighting the seriousness of intoxication and impaired judgment. The absurdity led some to joke that perhaps recruiters from world-famous circuses would soon be scouting St. Augustine jail as their next stop. Behind the humor lay a sobering reality. The officers were grappling with a person in a state not only dangerous to them but also to herself. Her actions not only added to her charges but also underscored the grave consequences of alcohol and the loss of self-control. While the mother unleashed unforgettable chaos, her young son stood nearby, his eyes wide with bewilderment and dismay, perhaps silently questioning how his life had come to this moment on the bridge. Witnessing his mother's lack of control, the boy must have felt a mix of embarrassment, fear, and powerlessness. Thankfully, the officers acted swiftly to ensure the child's safety, returning him to his grandmother, a woman ready to provide comfort with warm hugs, sweet treats, and likely a stern warning to avoid that bridge ever again. The grandmother's presence offered not only a sense of safety but also a temporary foundation of stability amid the tension. Yet, the situation raised deeper questions about the boy's living environment and the long-term psychological effects he might face. Could he overcome the painful memory of this event? Or would it serve as an early lesson about adult instability and the importance of making the right choices in life? This incident underscored the responsibility not just of families but also of society in protecting and supporting children in difficult circumstances. Seeing the worried look in the boy's eyes on the bridge that day, one couldn't help but wonder whether we are doing enough to ensure that children like him have the chance to grow up in a safer, more loving, and stable environment. As the situation calmed and normalcy returned to the police station, the officers began recounting the arrest, as if they had just endured an arduous battle. One officer couldn't hide his surprise and exhaustion when describing the woman they had just detained. "She's a whirlwind of chaos, fighting not just us but logic and gravity too." The comment reflected both his bafflement and a reluctant admiration for her sheer obstinance and eccentricity. This wasn't just an ordinary arrest, It was an extraordinary display of resistance. Another officer expressed amazement at her climbing skills, noting how she managed to squeeze through a locked partition. It was a moment that may have made him consider drafting a resignation letter, as even the most seasoned officers could feel powerless against the absurdity of such situations. Her climbing was not just a metaphor for strong resistance but also a demonstration of her near-complete disregard for rules and boundaries. However, what made the story even more absurd and unforgettable was her behavior in custody. The officers couldn't stop describing her unrelenting energy and, most notably, her use of her body as an unconventional weapon. Bladder, unfortunately weaponized, became the punchline of the day, evoking reluctant laughter amid the tension. Her actions not only added to the absurdity of the situation, but also showcased a level of defiance and lack of self-control that was almost unparalleled. These recounts weren't just post-shift banter among the officers, but a glimpse into the chaotic energy of an intoxicated individual and how unpredictably disorderly a situation could become. This arrest was a true battle, testing not only physical endurance but also mental resilience and patience. The woman now faced a series of charges, each one marking a significant step in her escalating chain of actions. The first charge, resisting arrest, highlighted how she had resisted intervention from the start, refusing to comply with basic lawful instructions. This behavior not only demonstrated a lack of respect for authority but also exacerbated an already volatile situation. Next, battery on law enforcement is a more serious offense. When she not only refused to cooperate but also physically resisted the police with her hands and feet, her actions not only violated the rights of those enforcing the law but also escalated the incident to a more violent and dangerous level. The police were no longer simply addressing a disorderly incident but now faced a violent individual under the influence of alcohol. Finally, disorderly conduct is not a minor offense, as it reflects not only a lack of personal restraint but also poses potential risks to the community. She didn't just cause a scene on the bridge, she disrupted others around her and endangered traffic, forcing vehicles to stop and requiring police intervention. With each of these charges, the woman not only created a string of legal issues for herself, but also cemented her place in St. Augustine's history as a quintessential Karen. Noteworthy not only for her disruptive behavior, but also for how she single-handedly tarnished her reputation in the eyes of the community and law enforcement. While she may perceive herself as the victim of this situation, the reality is that she has authored a chapter in the city's criminal history, with an outcome far from what she had hoped. As Karen was escorted to jail, her young son was safely reunited with his grandmother, who turned out to be the true hero of this situation. The grandmother, with a look of both worry and resolve, indicated that the boy might live a better life without witnessing his mother's bizarre escapades on the bridge. Although the boy is still very young, he likely won't easily forget the tense scenes he witnessed. However, at least now, he is in a more stable environment with a loved one who can provide him with the care and protection he needs. As for Karen, one can hope that her time in jail will provide her an opportunity to reflect on her actions. Hopefully, she will come to terms with the gravity of the decisions that placed both her and her son in danger and find a way to turn her life around after her release. Perhaps taking an anger management course or at least learning to control her emotions could help her improve her life and reduce the outbursts that lead to such impulsive actions. Regarding her bladder control, this incident may serve as a necessary lesson, not only to avoid embarrassing situations like this one, but also to better handle life's challenges. It is hoped that after this incident, Karen will realize that her life can change for the better as long as she is willing to confront her problems and seek help when needed. The matter concluded with the woman being detained to face legal proceedings while her young son was taken to safety with his grandmother. However, this story is more than just an ordinary case of public disturbance. It serves as a serious reminder of the impact of individual behavior on those around us, especially children. In her drunken and out-of-control state, the mother not only endangered herself but also inflicted lasting psychological scars on her son. Through this incident, we are reminded that caregiving and responsibility toward children are not only duties but also the foundation for building a better future. Reckless actions today can become a significant burden for generations to come.